So this week's Game of Thrones episode, Season 5, Episode 9, The Dance of Dragons. Let's jump right into it. So I want to go ahead and start with the ending with Daenerys and the fighting pits and just pretty much the Dance of Dragons, getting to see the actual dragon in this episode. And you just can't trust her dude or anything he says. She was trying to figure out where he was, and he's like, oh, I'm just making sure everything's prepared. And I'm thinking in my head, yeah, he's making sure everything's prepared to kill her. But then I was kind of surprised that he was trying to lead her away, and then the Harpies ended up stabbing him. So I thought to myself, maybe he isn't behind everything, but maybe it wasn't like a fatal stab. Maybe he's going to be I don't know, but I thought he was kind of tied in, and the fact that they killed him, maybe they thought they didn't need him anymore. And then there's so much dialogue, just while the fighting is going on between Tyrion, her husband, Daenerys, and it's worth paying attention to. So then Jorah shows up as we knew he was going to, and he surprisingly was getting tossed around, and I thought to myself, maybe I overhyped Jorah up, or maybe maybe he's not as good as I thought he was, because there were a couple times there he was pretty close to dying, and I was like, maybe he's not as good as I thought he was like on Sir Barristan level. I mean, not as good, but at least there. But yeah, he was getting worked. So then after that fight, when I see Jorah throw that spear up there, I thought he was going for her husband. But he ends up getting a harpy, and then you just see them just come out of the stands, like in the 10s to 50s to 100s. They start slaughtering people in the stands. They try to go after Daenerys, and then bottling them up in the middle of the pit, of the fighting pit. And I was like, there's no way they're going to get out. But I didn't think Daenerys was going to die, just because story convenience. I'm like, they can't just kill her like this without her ever making it to the Iron Throne or anything like that. So I thought they were just going to capture her. And in my mind before it started, I was like, they're going to capture her. Somehow her dragons are going to break out next season and like come and free her. But Drogon shows up, saves the day, dragons for the win. We got the whole White Walker war last week. We got dragon action this week, and it was pretty amazing. He comes in, and I slowly thought, I was like, he's gonna die. I thought they were all just gonna run away. Drogon comes in and saves the day. The episode ends. They start throwing spears at him. He starts getting hit. He starts slowing down. I'm like, man, she's gonna lose a dragon because of this. And the whole time I'm like, this is why you should have been training those two dragons. You got them locked up in there. Where are your Unsullied? Why are they not like within the stands, outside? Like where is your protection? But she ends up going to Drogon, calming him down. She hops on his back, and they dip the fuck out. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what about Tyrion and Jorah? You're just gonna leave them all in the middle? They're still kind of outnumbered. And she ends up flying off into the sunset. And that's all. And that's pretty much how the episode ends. So let's jump back to the beginning where we see Jon coming in with the wildlings. They look like, I did not expect them to come in that deep. But there's a lot of them. And that like initial stare down, I'm like, he's not going to open the gate. They're not going to let him in. They're going to leave him out there. There's going to be like a mutiny going on in Castle Black. And Jon and the wildlings are going to be left on the opposite side of the wall. But they finally opened the gate. And even when they did, I thought there was going to be some kind of ambush in the tunnel. But they actually march through. And it's just dead silent. Everyone in black is giving the wildlings the stink eye, and then like the reverse, the other way around. And then Ollie shows up, and the look on Ollie needs to be taken out. He needs to be killed immediately, or I see him fucking some shit up. Whether it's Tormund, whether it's Jon, whether it's Sam, he's gonna kill somebody, and they might as well just take him out now. And that's pretty much all the action we see with the Night's Watch and the wildlings. It's just them. They actually make it through the wall into Castle Black. The wildlings come through. Then he tells Jon Snow, you have a good heart, but it's going to end up getting us all killed. And Jon, he just feels so guilty. He's like, I couldn't save them all. I promised them something, and I got them killed. And you know, Sam's got to come with the positive. He's like, you saved his life, her life, his life. So it's really making to be interesting to see what happens with that whole wildling crow situation. So then we get to Stannis, and oh man. Before we get to the depressing part, in this episode, I guess Ramsay ends up infiltrating with those 20 men and basically burns off their horses, their food supplies. So they're pretty much just sitting north in the winter, snowed in. They have no food, no transportation. Like, they're all locked in. And it kind of, I think it makes Stannis just snap. He's so bent on the goal of becoming king, that he sees it slowly falling apart. And I think that whole Ramsey situation just kind of was the last straw. And then he goes and talks to his daughter, trying to explain to his daughter how he feels. He's like, which side? He tells her the story. The daughter tells him the story about the dancing dragons, about the battle between the two Targaryens. He's like, which one would you pick? You always have to have a choice. And she's like, I wouldn't pick either. I don't support either. And she's like, Stannis tries to explain himself. She's like, I don't care if I don't know what it's about. I just want to serve you, Daddy, help you the way I can. Anything you want, I'm here for you. And I was like, clearly he's not thinking about what I think he is. And then it cuts, and I slowly see them walking her out in the snow. And I knew. And when she was walking out, I was like, don't you dare. Don't do what I think you're about to do. And they fucking did it, man. Stannis is sitting there with his wife. They walk her up there. They tie her. She's screaming the whole time, asking for her dad to help. I thought he was going to be a bitch and just not show up. And he was going to be like in his tent crying or something. But he's there, stone-faced, just staring at her ass. And I was like, wow, if anybody's going to stare, it's going to be the mother. And the mother actually showed compassion and emotion. She had been tossing the daughter aside, like basically all that I've seen of her. And she actually showed emotion and cared and wanted Stannis to stop it. And he's pretty much, he's war crazy right now. He wants the throne, and he ends up sacrificing the most, I think he knows, but not right now, but the viewers know, it's the most precious thing in his life. And he ends up sacrificing it. He saves her once early in her life when they told him just get rid of her. She's got the grayscale, all that. And he ends up sacrificing her to obtain his throne. That's why I think Sir Devos, that's why he gave her the present. That's why he wanted to take him, because I felt like he knew something was going to happen to her if he left. And I'm just interested to see when he comes back what, whether it's this season or next season, when he finds out that they killed her, what shit goes down. And then we go to the whole Jaime and Dorne exchange. I thought it was going to be a little more violent than it was, but it was pretty low-key. The Dornish king is going to let them go on back to King's Landing as long as everything's under control, as long as now his new son, the Prince, takes over Oberyn's spot and is allowed to be on the council and all that. And he's like, you can take the princess with you as long as he goes. And I thought they were going to kill my man Bronn when they were just like, one exception, we'll let him go. The prince is like, I've shown compassion from my father, I'll let him go with one exception. I thought they were going to cut his dick up. I thought they were going to do something crazy, but they just bow him in the face and he's good to go. And there's just that whole awkward tension. He's like, let's have a toast to King Tommen. He's my king. And she sits there and pours out the wine. And he's like, don't disrespect me like that again or I'll kill you. And he's got the sand snakes in her. And he's like, you pledge your allegiance to me or I kill you. And I thought when she was taking a knee and crying, I thought it was fake tears. She was going to pull out a dagger and like slit his throat. Because he's clearly paralyzed. He's got the wheelchair. He can't move. But it didn't. She goes and talks to Jaime. And he's like, you love her, don't you? He's like, yeah, I love my niece. And he's like, that's not the one I'm talking about. He's like, I know you love Cersei. I know that that's actually your daughter. She's like, here, it doesn't matter who you love. I accept you and all this stuff. He's like, I know you weren't guilty for his death. And maybe she slowly is coming around and isn't bent on killing Lannisters. I don't know. But it was interesting. It was good to see her lighten up. And I also like the little slap game that they had going back and forth when she gets in her head. She's like, you're going to miss. Now you're nervous. And she's like, okay, my turn. Slaps the shit out of her. So then we jump to Arya, and I'm like, okay, this is her time. Is she faceless? Is she ready to be an assassin? Is she going to do it? And as soon as like she gets there, the gambler, dock man, whatever you want to call him, asking for his oysters, and one of the people on her list that she sits there and mumbles every single night that we've seen in past episodes, where she's like, the Hound, Cersei, Joffrey, and like she just says, and he shows up, and from there on, like she's bent on revenge. That's why I don't think she can't be a faceless woman or faceless man, because she's just too bent on revenge, and she can't stay focused on the goal. The goal was to kill that dude with the poison, and she couldn't do it. She ends up following them all the way into the whorehouse. And once we find out that my man is like low-key a pedophile, I was like, oh shit. Because they were bringing out these young, beautiful girls, and he's like, too old. I'm like, she's like maybe 16. And they bring in this like 13, 12-year-old looking girl, and I'm like, I know what's going to happen. He's like, make sure tomorrow you have what I need, a new one. I know Arya, she's going to pose as one of the whores. in the house, kill him, cross off a name on her list. She goes back to the house with black and white. He asks her, did you take care of it? And she's like, oh, he wasn't there today. And he knows she didn't go through it. I think he knows everything that happened. I don't know how he knows, but he does. He's faceless. He's everywhere. And I'm just interested to see what she decides to end. Is her revenge going to get in the way of what she's been trying to obtain this whole time? And I think it is. So just a quick recap. We had Jon making it back to Castle Black with the wildlings. We had Stannis sacrificing his daughter, which I never thought he would do. Arya finally having to make these tough decisions, and it looks like she's failing. And then Daenerys and her dragons is really starting to get interesting. And hopefully she learns to control them and can utilize all three for next episode. It was definitely not as amazing as if last week was a 10 out of 10. This was more of like an 8 out of 10. It was a lot more slow-paced until the end, but still enjoyable episode. Next week is this season finale. I'm excited to see what happens in that. It looks like Melisandre kind of gets like the icicles in her tent, or that we see, and it kind of makes me think White Walkers, Battle of Fire and Ice coming together, dragons, and it's just making for a real good episode. So I appreciate it, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Comment down below. I appreciate all the love and support you guys showed last week. I never thought I would get a video over 2,000 views, and we got over 41,000 views, and I greatly appreciate it. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you have not already, tell a friend, leave your comments down below of what you thought, predictions for the season finale, next season, and as always,